Ashwin Shekhar, who is the second meteor astronomer from Kerala to get his own minor planet named after him. To talk about his minor planet, to talk about his research and aspirations, he is joining with us. So, welcome to our show.
Thanks very much.
So, let's start by talking about your own minor planet, 33928 Ashwin Shekhar.
Well, the process is there are some legends in astrophysics who actually nominated my name without me knowing about it, and it went to the International Astronomical Union Nomenclature Committee, and I'm given to understand that these senior scientists they were citing my work in meteor science, and in recognition of my work in meteor science, they nominated me for this honor. And the International Astronomical Union actually assessed my body of work, then approved it and announced this minor planet at a conference called Asteroids, Comets and Meteors in Arizona, in America, on June 21st.
Venu Babus must be the first person to get such a recognition, but his name is not often heard. So, can you just tell about the contributions by the Kerala astronomers in this field?
What you said is absolutely right. There was this great legend called Venu Babus from Talasheri in Kannur, and he was a true legend in terms of both as an astrophysicist as well as an institution builder, but most Keralais unfortunately don't know about him and his contributions. He is one of those people who has this rare recognition of having a comet named after him, a minor planet named after him. There's also something called the Wilson-Babu effect in the astrophysics textbooks named after him, and there is this Venu Babus observatory in Kavalur in Tamil Nadu, the biggest optical telescope in India for such a long time, was named after him. And he is also the founder of Indian Institute of Astrophysics, which has lots of branches in different parts of India, and it has trained a whole generation of astrophysicists in our country. So I think Venu Babus truly is a pride of Kerala, and he was the first person from Kerala to have this minor planet honor. And in general, I have always found that he is one of those rare individuals who has this gift of building institutions as well as doing research in the best efficiency as he can.
But his name is often not heard anywhere. That is very unfortunate, right?
Yes, that's very unfortunate in the sense that there are lots of articles, media articles, people have written about him. There are few people in social media who mention about him, but I think probably in Kerala to have his name immortal, probably some good filmmaker should consider making a movie about him, because sometimes the films has the maximum reach to the general public. So just like most people came to know about J.C. Daniel through this movie by Kamal, I think some good filmmaker, if he can make a movie about Venu Babus, I think then his name would be it would get the place it deserves in our Kerala society.
So actually it is very difficult for common people to understand about the celestial dynamics or celestial mechanics or dynamic mechanics and everything. So can you just tell me what really astronomers do actually?
Okay, so there are different types of astronomers. There are stellar physics people, solar physics people, galaxy people. There are people who do work in asteroids, comets, meteors like me. There are people who work in cosmology, climate change, weather science, math science, and so many things connected with astronomy. So all these people do different things, but the general thing is we all study space, we all study celestial objects in the outer space, and we try to understand them. We try to understand them better so that we know our own place in the universe better. So that's the single line in which I can say that. But in a broader sense, we are trying to understand the formation, evolution of our own solar system, how the Earth was formed, and what role other celestial bodies have in our own solar system.
How did you find your path? Is it like you were always fascinated by the astronomy or something from very childhood? How did you find your path?
Well, most simple explanation is like most young kids, I was fascinated by the night sky. And I grew up in a small town in the Palakkad district in Kerala called Uttapalam and Sarplaseri and so on. When I was growing up in my 1980s and 90s, there was hardly any light pollution. So it was pristine night skies above the river Bharatapura. And it was pretty amazing to look at the sky at those times. And there are a couple of things which comes to my mind which actually triggered my interest specifically. I remember going to my uncle's place in Nagaland close to Kohima. It was posted in Assam Rifles, and I had a look at beautiful Nagaland skies there, and I saw a beautiful comet in 1997 called Hale-Bopp. It was one of the most spectacular and brightest comets at that time. That actually triggered my interest to study more about comets. Then in 1999, I remember there was something called the Leonid's meteor storm. And this Leonid's meteor storm was almost like celestial fireworks on the sky. And my uncle, Krishna Warrior, who used to be a scientist in SIDAC in Trivandrum, he encouraged me to look up the sky. And I had a look at the sky and I saw these beautiful shooting stars. That actually sort of sparked my interest into meteor science. So I thought one day I want to get into this field. And by so many luck factors coming together, now I'm blessed that I'm the first meteor scientist from India.
So from Ottapalam to Paris, it must be a very hard journey. So tell us about your journey.
It's a long journey with lots of ups and downs. I did my schooling until 10th standard in Cheruplassheri, in a small school there. Then I did my +1 and +2 in Bhavans in Cochin. Then I did my BSc from MG College Trivandrum. I did my MSc Physics from VIT Vellore in Tamil Nadu. I did my MPhil in Nuclear Physics from Christ University, Bangalore in Karnataka. And I also did some parallel projects with Indian Institute of Astrophysics, Bangalore, Institute of Mathematical Sciences, Chennai, and so on. Then luckily I got a British scholarship to do a PhD in Queen's University, Belfast in UK. Then I did a PhD in Halley-type comets and meteor showers. And I got to work with a top Scottish astronomer who was like the expert in meteor science in the whole world. Then I did my postdoctoral fellowship at University of Oslo in Norway. Then I specialized in celestial mechanics again. Then I came back to UK for a couple of years. Now I work with a meteor science team in the Institute of Celestial Mechanics in Paris Observatory. So it's been a long journey with lots of ups and downs. But one thing I want to highlight is I never studied in any Ivy League institutions or like prestigious brand name institutions. I never studied in Lund School or St. Stephen's or IIT or IIM or Oxford, Cambridge, Stanford, Princeton, nowhere. So I studied in sort of normal colleges, normal universities, not very prestigious brand names as it were. But I think this should probably become a little bit of an inspiration for people from rural parts of India, that even if you don't study in top brand name Ivy League institutions, you can still reach anywhere you like.
That must be a lot of hard work, and that this is very interesting to know. And now you got a minor planet by your own named after you. So how does that feel?
Well, it was a pleasant surprise. This whole process is very discreet. So I didn't know that my name was nominated, and I don't know who all nominated me. So it's almost like a confidential recommendation letter which you are not supposed to see. So during this conference dinner in Arizona in America, during this Asteroids, Comets, Meteors conference, the American scientists, they announced this name. So it was a pleasant surprise. Some of these things actually make you like totally shocked and surprised at the same time. But then I also felt this is an indirect recognition to many meteor scientists before me, because ours is a very small field. There are hardly 100 people working in the whole world in my field. So there are a lot of people who haven't got the recognition they deserve in their life. So I feel this is like a bit of homage to them. I don't see it as a personal achievement.
So yes, we do have very small count of astronomers. So how can we inspire our children to into this field?
Well, I would say the best way is you encourage them to send them to science museums, planetariums and so on. Many science museums and planetariums in Kerala as well as other parts of India, they do an excellent job in inspiring kids, doing programs for them and so on. Plus, another thing I have seen when I went to America, all the centers of NASA, they have a dedicated visitor center, dedicated team to take care of visitors and so on. So I wish more space agency centers and nuclear reactor centers in India, they also open up to the public. They still do a lot of programs these days, but I kind of feel if we can do more programs more frequently, and if more centers can open up, we can inspire more kids in India.
But actually in India, if the space is all about ISRO, more or less all about ISRO. So we should introduce our children to the other institutions also, right?
Absolutely. So what I would encourage is the college students and the university students, if we can do like a short research project in some of these top institutes in India, it can be anything. I mean, I'm not particularly saying everyone should become astronomers or astrophysicists. whatever their tastes are, whether it's biology, chemistry, mathematics, physics, whatever area of pure science you are interested in, there are plenty of opportunities to actually do a research project with a top scientist in a research institute, and then you get a flavor as to what the whole research process is. Then if you really like it, continue a career in science, and that I think is the best stepping stone to become a scientist.
What can be done, especially within the rural area?
Well, I would generally say more scientists should write about science and research and education to general media. So both the mainstream national media as well as the regional vernacular media, so that it reaches more people. Plus, I think if we can send rural kids to more science education centers, like I said, science museums, planetariums and so on, I think that would certainly create a spark in them. Plus, we can also make the labs more interactive. So one suggestion I have is, when you, let's say, teach about electromagnetism, try to have a lot of magnets around you, try to play with it and try to understand the nature happening around us and so on. Plus, another thing is, every school in our country, they have microscopes, but hardly schools have telescopes, right? So we should probably have one telescope as well in every school, because in a lab exam you see 50 different microscopes. With that same amount of money, you can easily buy 1 or 2 telescopes. So it would be good to have the appreciation for the micro world as well as the macro world.
What is your current focus?
So to follow up on this Perseids meteor shower, there is also a reason why it is special for me, because my own research has actually focused between something called a 3-body resonance, which is almost like a gravitational dance between Jupiter, Saturn and Perseids meteor showers. And my study actually explained as to why in certain years you would have very intense shooting stars coming from this meteor shower. So I was the first person to find out this 3-body resonance in meteor streams. So in that way it's kind of special for me. So that's one of my research projects. The other project is about trying to learn more about threats from outer space. So as you can imagine, some of the asteroids, when they come close to the Earth or when they collide with the Earth, it can be a dangerous risk for our own planet. So my present research actually focuses on trying to forecast some of these risks and try to understand the impact analysis and collision risk probabilities and so on.
So having your own minor planet must have been made you more responsible, right?
It has made me more responsible, yes. And one of the conditions of International Astronomical Union to name an asteroid in the name of someone is that that particular asteroid shouldn't have any collision risk with Earth, because that will be a pretty bad PR, right? If after all an asteroid with the name of a human which comes and collides with the Earth. So they actually check the calculations and try to understand the orbits of some of these asteroids, and they ensure that whatever asteroid is named in honor of someone is actually safe and it wouldn't come close to Earth.
So as a renowned astronomer, do you have any plans for the kids in Kerala?
I would love to work with different schools and education departments to bring more students into science and make more young kids in Kerala as scientists in future. Over the years, I have already done a lot of science outreach programs. So I have worked with, I've given talks at these MRS schools in tribal areas. I've actually tried talking to lots of students in rural and tribal areas and conducted programs to inspire them, arranged sky gazing sessions for them, brought telescopic teams for them to show some interesting objects in the sky. Because one of the things kids would really love is to look through a telescope, see the craters on the moon, see the moons of Jupiter, see the rings of Saturn, and all these things are possible with reasonably small telescopes. So one of the reasons why I was saying that it's possible that all schools can have telescopes is because you can actually buy a telescope with about 20,000 to 30,000 rupees these days. So it's not that expensive for most of the schools here. So if you can invest a lot for microscope, we can also invest something for one telescope, which would actually enhance the spatial view of students, right? So I think that would be a nice thing to do in terms of understanding the cosmos and spreading the magic of cosmos to young kids.
So the government should also pay more attention for that, right?
I would actually say that the school management themselves can manage this. We don't need actually government support for such a small thing. But it would be nice if more government schools also show an interest in these things. And in general, I have always seen that the ministers and officials here are very positive and supportive. So if you put forward a new idea which has some resonance and which is useful for younger generation, they are certainly very receptive, and they have always been very nice and supportive to me.
So India, in India, actually the field of astronomy is facing so much of technical difficulties, right?
Yeah, in general, funding pure science is always a difficult thing, because some of these huge telescopic projects, like for example, this James Webb Space Telescope costs about $1 billion. So it's not easy for one nation or one particular department to fund the whole thing. So we have to prioritize these things. And India, in a way, is involved in many of these top-end projects in its own way. And presently, I think India has a good stakeholdership in lots of these huge mega science projects.
What major advancements can we expect in the near future in the field of astronomy?
I would actually say that the most hot topic these days is exoplanets. So as you know, there are lots of planets outside our own solar system, and the biggest challenge is to find life outside solar system. So I would actually say the present estimate, we have about 10 to the power 22, which means 1 with 22 zeros. So many exoplanets in the universe. So it's very unlikely statistically that Earth is the only place with life. So I'm pretty sure, even if it doesn't happen in my lifetime, I'm pretty sure very soon we would actually find some Earth-like exoplanet outside. We'll find an exoplanet with habitable conditions. We'll also eventually find an exoplanet with life. So all these things you see in Hollywood movies like alien life and collisions with Earth and all these things, they are pretty real. They are not totally imagination and totally like literature kind of stuff. These things are also part of proper science. So in future, I am pretty sure we'll find contact with some alien civilization, and it will be an amazing way to understand even life outside Earth.
Oh, you are pointing out that Earth-like planet is not a imaginary thing, right?
Not at all. They are finding new planets which are Earth-like, and some of them do find we find signatures for composition and chemicals which can actually possibly sustain life and sustain organic compounds. So this is very much like we are in the right direction to find life outside Earth.
How will that affect Earth?
That we don't know, because it depends on what kind of life we contact with, right? So life can be anything. It need not be intelligent life all the time. Sometimes the first life we might find in outer space is some microbes or some non-intelligent life. But when we connect with intelligent life, we actually don't know whether they are going to be more advanced than us in technology or whether more primitive than us. Because as you know, in our own case, about 200 or 500 years back, we were pretty primitive in our own ways. So we never know what kind of civilization and how advanced they are. So it could either be a boon for us or either could be a threat for us. But still, I think it's worth a try and it'll be fun.
So you're expecting more young minds to be in this field and for the research, right?
Yes, so this is a good selling point for young kids. Rather than using our old physics textbooks with just abacus and pulleys and all these wheelbarrows and stuff, we should show them some of these new research about exoplanets, galaxies, black holes and stuff. That will excite them even better.
Final question, but I'm a little bit curious about this. What is this 33928, Ashwin Shekhar? Your planet is named after like that?
Yeah.
What is this 33928?
Well, that is just a random number from the database, because as I said, when they assign names for asteroids in the name of someone as scientific nominations, they just pick from a database of known asteroids, and this was just a name assigned by the computer, so there is nothing special about it. The most interesting thing I find about this orbit is it's this orbit is more eccentric than other orbits of main belt asteroids, which I think also suits my personality.
So all the best for your future research, and thank you for talking with us.
Thanks.
Yeah.
আমাদের ভিডিও ভালো লাগলে লাইক এবং শেয়ার করুন। কমেন্ট সেকশনে গিয়ে জানান আপনাদের মতামত। আরও ভিডিও পেতে আমাদের চ্যানেল সাবস্ক্রাইব করুন এবং প্রতি মুহূর্তে খবরের আপডেট পেতে প্রেস করুন বেল আইকন।